Have you ever been in the middle of a stupid decision and instantly regretted it? I'm not there. I'm just wondering if anyone knows what that feels like, so I'll know if it happens. A lot of y'all commented on the squeaky shoes. Yes, these shoes are squeaky. They're somewhat new. I haven't been wearing them a lot, so they're in the breaking in process, which is why they serenade me as I go. Actually, it's just left foot that serenades me. The right one stopped squeaking about a week ago. We may or may not be in the middle of a tornado watch. Ooh, someone's smoking. But it's okay. We're going to the movies. It's an AMC Screen Unseen mystery movie. I think it's Argyle. Let's go. Like I said, I think I'm probably going to be the only one here because, it's kind of tornado watchy outside. And now we go get food. All right. So let's talk about it. There, that's better. So that was Origin, directed by Ava DuVernay, stars Ingenue Ellis Taylor. This movie is kind of sort of based on a true story. I mean, not kind of sort of it is, but it's both based on the making of a book, but also kind of an adaptation of said book. I was very shocked that this was Origin. I figured it was going to be Argyle or the Book of Clarence, which would have been a weird pick because the Book of Clarence comes out this week. But no, I am so glad I got to see this. This was on my list of things to see, but they didn't have a wide release in 2023, and I had no idea when I would get to see it in 2024. The release has just been it's been weird. I'm gonna keep it kind of short and sweet because it's still, tornado watchy outside. That was excellent. There were a couple of things that I wouldn't say bothered me, but concerned me slightly. I was a little worried in the beginning because it felt like it was going the way of propaganda, because it felt like she being the director, was inserting her biases into the story. And I think she was. She could have just had a random blue-collar white dude showing how, some white people in America feel uncomfortable around black people. But no, it had to be a blue-collar white dude wearing a MAGA hat. That was intentional. That was her bias showing. So this movie, it's called Origin. It's based on this book she wrote called Caste, The Origin of Our Discontent, basically showing the connection between, the treatment of black Americans in the United States, Nazi Germany and the Jews, and then the caste system in India. The connections there is not so much racism. Racism is a part of it, but it's not the origin of it all, but talking about how caste exists in different cultures and what that looks like. So the catalyst for this, kind of the launching point, is the Trayvon Martin case that happened in, 2012, I believe? And this is where her bias begins to show again, and where I started to get a little concerned. I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? A colleague of hers sends her copies of the 911 calls. We all heard the 911 calls right after it happened, right? So she's, in the middle of the night listening to the 911 calls, and as she's listening to the 911 calls, we're getting cuts to a dramatization of what happened that night. However, the dramatization of what's happening is not accurate. At first, I just talked it up to, okay, we're just seeing her interpretation of what she's hearing. Because again, all she has is the audio 911 calls. And I think this is normal for most people. Whenever you're hearing something in audio form, or even when you're reading a book, you will build a mental picture to make sense of what it is you're reading or what you're hearing. So at first I thought that's what we're seeing. Her trying to make sense of what she's hearing. But no, we see those same clips later on in the movie. And then we revisit Trayvon at the very end. So what we're seeing in terms of this dramatization of the altercation between George Zimmerman and Trayvon is not Isabel, the character, Isabel's interpretation of what she's hearing, but it's Ava DuVernay's biases regarding the case itself, because there's no excuse. Okay, the case is well documented. I'm pretty sure the entire trial is on YouTube. we already know that those 911 calls, we all assumed that that was Trayvon screaming for help. We now know that wasn't Trayvon screaming for help. It was George Zimmerman. Again, it's all documented. So I don't understand why she got that part wrong. Why she was so insistent on us seeing this event portrayed in a way that's just not correct. So I was a little worried. Like, is this going to be a movie or is this propaganda? But once we move past that, the movie's beautiful. It's a nice little case study. Because again, this is based on a nonfiction book written by Isabel Wilkerson, who was played by Aunjanue Ellis Taylor. You know, she suffered tragedy after tragedy in her life and begins this journey to explore racism and the caste system and how it's all interconnected and what this all looks like across the world. It's beautifully done, beautifully acted. Beautifully shot. I love the way this was shot. I love it. I love directors that appreciate the basics, if that makes sense. There's a visual metaphor. It's right after she loses her husband and her mother. This kind of visual metaphor. She's laying on her bed. She's sad, and she's laying on a bed of leaves, but not just leaves, but they're brown leaves. So the leaves that you see when the seasons change. Very poetic. Like, I just loved that. So great movie. I'm so happy I got to see it. Because again, I didn't know when I would get to see it. You know, that's what you have with these, you know, limited release, independent Oscar movies. You never know when you're going to get to see them. Now, about the Oscars, this is the sad part. This movie, most likely, is not going to get nominated for any major awards. So it missed the Golden Globes, it'll probably miss SAG, and it's probably going to miss the Oscars. Why is that? So when I was doing my research, so to speak, back in September, trying to get a list of all of the big award contenders so that I had a, you know, at least kind of a timeline of movies that I needed to see before the end of the year, because again, I'm trying to see all the Best Picture nominees before the Oscars. And this movie here was on every list I could find. You know, Best Picture contender, Origin. Best Actress contender, Aunjanue Ellis Taylor. Every list I could find, and yet it's getting nominated for almost nothing. Why? Submitting your movies for consideration for awards, submitting them to SAG, to the Golden Globes, to the Oscars, it costs money. Campaigning for movies costs money. Most studios will only really push one movie at a time. Barbie, for instance, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is really pushing The Color Purple right now. At least they were. They're probably not going to be doing that so much anymore. But they also have Barbie under their belt. But they don't need to push Barbie. Margot Robbie can do that. Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is a producer for The Color Purple, but he's not bothering with The Color Purple. He's letting Oprah handle that. He, on the other hand, is pushing Maestro. This film, Origin, as wonderful and beautiful as it is, and I firmly believe it deserves some sort of award recognition, like it should be recognized, is being distributed by Neon. Neon has decided they're going to push Anatomy of a Fall over the rest of their library from 2023. Anatomy of a Fall is excellent, but dang, it's a little unfair. But yeah, I loved that. That was great.